Hi, Alex here from Rebeloper.com, and in this video I am going to create a new Xcode project for a new game. It is the 22nd of December and we are at the 22nd Advent Calendar tutorial. So without further ado, let's get started. Before we start and dive into it, let us just go and commit our finished project for our Advent Calendar Tutorials Xcode, and I will just name this Day 21. I will push the remote and commit new files. And of course, we are going to create a new project. But let's talk about a little bit more about our new adventure, because in the next 4 days we are going to create a whole new app from scratch with the knowledge you have got from the previous tutorials, and that name and that game will be submitted to the App Store and hopefully approved and published to the App Store. Now, the game will be a very simple game. We will add donuts to the gameplay scene of various sizes, and the player will need to choose the biggest one. This one that seems to be the biggest. Okay, but in this video we are going to set up the UI and hopefully we are going to finish in around 20 minutes. So without further ado, let's get started. And this will be a fast-paced tutorial, and I'm going to copy and paste a lot of code. I'm going to go through a lot of steps real easily, quickly, because if you have watched the previous videos, then you know what I am doing. So let's go and create a new project. File, new, and let's create a new project. Now this will be a game, and I will create it as next, and a product name should be ACT game. Great, and I will choose Swift for the language and click on next, and I will create a Git repository on my Mac, and I will just go here and add it to my YouTube Advent Calendar folder. Okay, let's create it. Great, here we are, ACT game, and here we have our delegate game scene. Now we want to create, first of all, let's take a look at the way we have implemented our app delegate. And as you can see, we have a window, UI window, and we have added the game view controller to our root view controller of our window. So what that means is that we have got rid of our main storyboard. So let's go ahead and delete this, and let's move it to trash, and make sure that under your target general we have our main unselected, so we just delete it. Okay, now what we need to do is go into the app delegate, and let us just copy and paste this window, UI window, and we make this window key invisible, and we create our game view controller instance and we add it to the Windows root view controller. But let's just okay, here we have our game view controller and here we have our game scene. Good stuff till now. And now let's take care of our game view controller, and let's see how we did that in the Advent Calendar tutorials. Okay, let's select our game view controller, and as you can see here we have some notifications. We have created an SK view, and that is what we are going to do now. We are creating an SK view right here, and of course we are deleting all of this. Okay, and should auto rotate. Okay, I will just delete all of this, and we will just copy what we need from our other project. I will just cut and paste so we get the indentation correct. Okay, we have our SK view here, and now we will need to add our SK view to our view now. Okay, and of course we want to constrain it to the top, right, bottom and left anchor. Okay, and finally we want to create a scene that will be a main menu scene. We want to scale it to aspect fill, and we want to present it on the escape view, and of course we want to set the ignore siblings order to true. Go ahead and take a look at the previous videos if you kind of don't understand what all of this means, and it complains automatically that we don't have a main menu scene. Well, we will create one, and of course we are not going to use SK as scenes, so we are going to simply just copy all of these and delete them and move them to the trash. And good stuff. Okay, now we need to create our main menu scene, and this is quite a simple scene, so let us just go ahead, right click here, new file. It will be a Swift file. Hit next and type in main menu. Okay, let's create it. And inside here we want to of course add our play button, our settings button. Well, not our settings button, but we are going to add we are not going to create a settings button, settings scene like we did in the advent calendar tutorial. We are going to place our two rate button and our I believe the share button. Yes, the share button and the rate button, we are going to add that above our play button, and that is the only difference here. So let's import SpriteKit here. Let's create our class, name it main menu, and it will be of superclass SK scene. And of course we want to add our did move to view function, and we will add some code here. But before we do that, let us just create our play button. Okay, and let's create two functions. We are going to first of all, and then we are going to add nodes. Okay, good stuff, because first of all we want to set up the nodes. So we want to set their z position, their position, and so on, and after that we want to add them to our scene with add child and the node name. So let's create these two functions here. This is a more structured way of adding our nodes to the scene. That seems to be fine. Now here we have it is complaining about our BD button, so I will just simply go ahead and in my advent calendar tutorial right click on my BD button.swift file and show in Finder, and let us just go back to the ACT game and simply drag and drop it onto my project. Of course, copy items if needed needs to be checked, and make sure the target is selected. Okay, click finish, and now let's just build once again, and the BD button should be okay. Now we might have other things like this CG float has no member, a random, and if you remember we have added that in the extensions file. So I will just again show in Finder, here we are, and just simply drag and drop it onto my project. These are neat little helpers that we have constructed along these 22 days, well 21, this is the 22nd. Okay, let's build and run again. Well, let's just build, and here we have our show ads are missing and our start gameplay. Okay, I will just delete this, well, comment out this show ads for now, and go back and take a look at the start gameplay function. Okay, let's go to our main menu here. Here I will just scroll down, and as you can see we have a transition here, and let's just copy, and I will just copy the notification function here too, because we are going to implement it in just a moment. Okay, let's just build again, and this is how you kind of create it. You just build it and take a look at what is missing. Okay, if you are copying code, and of course you understand what that code is supposed to do. Okay, ACT manager is missing, so let's go ahead and right click, show in Finder. Here it is. I will just drag and drop ACT manager again here. Let's finish. Now let's build again. Now we should get the transition. Build has failed. Now let's take a look at why this build is failing. Well, first of all, we have no sound file name, and I believe that is because they are in the ACT player stats, and here it is, the sound file name. But what if we did not know that where that is? It's plain old simple. Let's go and take a look. This one is inside the BD button, and it's on line 93. So I will just go inside the the building code and scroll down to the 93rd line. Here we have our sound file name. I just right click on it and let's take it to jump to definition, and we are inside our ACT player stats.file. So that is how you can find missing components. Okay, let's show in Finder again. Well, a lot of finders have been opened here, and let's go and add the ACT player stats too. Okay, let's wait for it and make sure copy items if needed always is checked, so we don't get a reference to the other file. So this way it will be created in, again, this file will be created in your new project. Okay, let's build again. Let's see. Oh, only 2 errors. We are getting a hang of it. Well, first of all, we don't have a gameplay scene and we don't have a setting scene. As I have mentioned earlier, we are not going to use a setting scene, so I would just simply delete this. And if you already know the logic, we need to delete this from the scene types too. Okay, let's build again. And only one. Well, build has failed. What is the problem? Yes, use of unresolved identifier, because we already do have a main menu scene, but we don't have a gameplay scene. So let's take care of that real quickly. Let's create a new file here, Swift file, next, and let's create quickly a class here that is called gameplay and is of superclass SK scene, and I will just type in here did move to view and maybe add a print statement so we don't get that 1, 2, 3, don't get that code inside, so it will compile. I will hit Command B again to build this project, and hopefully all of this should be okay. Okay, now we have a building project. It is time, well, it should have been our first move when we created it, but now it is time to go to our source control and create a GitHub repository for this project. And I will just go here and right click on the master, and I will create ACT game remote on a GitHub. Okay, this will be again a public repository because I want you to get a hold of this code anytime you want it. I'm just creating it, pushing it. Okay, and we go back and let me see, let us just commit again. Maybe we need to commit. Yes, we need to commit, and let's type in first steps. Okay, and I will just push this to the master again and again and again because I already know what I want. Of course, it is advised to create branches as we did with the Advent Calendar Tutorials project. Good stuff. Okay, now let's go back and to the main menu and see where we are. Maybe let us just build this project and see. Well, we will see that our button play button name, the name is the button play. It is missing. Well, maybe I don't need on my iPhone, I need to select iPhone 10 and let's build it. Well, if we take a look at our assets, we will see that there are no images inside. So what we need to do is add our images, and I have already created these images, and they are inside ACT Game Resources, I believe, yes, and under Final. And I will not release these to the public because they are paid graphics, but you do have under your ACT Resources a file named ACT Game Assets URL, where you can find all of the assets that are included inside this example. Okay, let me see if the simulator will start here. Okay, and I believe, yes, that is it, because we haven't even added our button as a child to the scene. Well, good black screen here. Well, at least it builds successfully. Now, what I want to do is go ahead and take a look at our ACT Game Resources Final, and here you will see that we have some donuts, well, 96 donuts, we have some music, we have a UI elements, and what is this untitled folder? Well, let's just move this to trash. So we have these 3 folders, and I will just create a new folder here that will be called Donuts, and I will simply drag and drop all of these. Well, let's select them with Shift. Okay, it is loading. It did not put them in the Donuts folder, so I would just scroll down and put them inside here. A lot of images, so we need to be patient with this. Well, this move will take forever, so I will just remove the folder, remove selected item, okay, and I will just drop everything here. You can classify to the folders if you wish to, as seen in the Advert Calendar tutorial project. So I will just go ahead and go into my UI here and drop all of these images too. Okay, they are only just 7 images, and you can see they have been added here because donut 1 till donut 96 is at the bottom. Okay, now we have our button play. Let's go back to main menu, and inside here let's just go back to our main menu in the Advent Calendar tutorial and see what we are basically doing. Well, first of all, we are we're creating our anchor point of our scene to be at the center of our screen, and then we are positioning our play button to CG point 0, well, at the center, dead center of our scene, but this will need to be added to our setup nodes. Okay, and finally we are adding this play button to the scene, and that is the structure how we want to implement our main menu code. Okay, and let's see what happens. Let's select our iPhone 10 here, and let's see that play button. It is building, and here we have our play button. Good stuff. One thing we might do here is set the scale of our buttons. So I will just type in here button dot scale 2, and I will just set this to maybe 33. Okay, 0.33. Okay, and let's build and run again. Until then, let's talk about the background, because we need to add a new background here. Here we are, good play button, good stuff. Okay, here we have our background, and we will add our background in the main menu like so. First of all, let's create a variable called background, and it will be of type SK sprite node. And now we are creating a sprite SK sprite node, and we are creating it with an image named. So you just choose this image named. And what is the name of our image? Let's go back to the assets catalog, and it is simply a background. Okay, to paste it in here. And now we want to set this sprite's Z position to be 0, of course, because the button's Z position is 1, and of course we want to return it. Return sprite. Okay, and finally we want to add the position, so background, well, let's put it on top of that. Background dot position equals CG point, and again CG point 0. And let's add our nodes, add child and background. Let's see how all of that works out. We do have an error here. Yes, we need to initialize it. Okay, it is building, and we can see a huge background because this isn't quite scaled down to the width of our scene. So I'll just grab another snippet here, and I will grab it from my anti-Candy Crunch code here, and it is an extension, and it is called an SK sprite node extension scale to screen width percentage. Now I'll just copy this out and put it into my other extension folder here. We have been talking about this scaling for the buttons, and we are going to implement the same thing to our extension, to our SK sprite node extension. Okay, here we are. Let's just build this and maybe stop it from running, and let's go to main menu, and now we can set, go and type here sprite scale to, and here we have our screen width percentage, and of course we want 1.0 because we want to scale it at this time down to the whole width of our scene. Okay, let's build and run again and see the background completely covering the, okay, and because this is an iPhone 10, maybe we want to add the other option, and that is the screen height percentage. Okay, let's copy this out. This will look okay when we are doing it on an iPad. So let's just stop this from running, and inside our main menu, let us just change this to height percentage. Okay. Okay, we just need to fix this typo. Okay, let's build now. And as you can see, it covers up all of the screen. Good stuff. We will take care, maybe take care of the iPad. Let's just see how all of this looks on an iPad. Let's stop this. And now let's select, let's say, iPad Air and run it. Because we don't want to clip the background on any device. And we have this clipping on the edges. So for the iPads and iPad Pros, we need to set the scale for the screen width percentage. So I just add a little logic here. So else we want to scale with the height percentage. Okay, let's paste this in here and let's build and run again on the iPad Air and see if we were correct. Yes, it works. And now, of course, if we do run on our iPhone 10, and then we get a whole fill of the screen. Good stuff. Okay, now this device type is iPad. We have set this up in a previous video, so go ahead and take a look at that. Now we need to add our two buttons, and that is the rate button and the share button. So I will just copy this out again, add it in here, and that will be our rate button, and the name is button rate if I'm correct, and I am correct. Okay, and let's delete our button action, and let's scale it down maybe to 27%. Okay, and now let us just add it. Rate button position equals to, and it will be CG point. And now we need to position it, and of course our CG point 0 is at the dead center of our screen, so we want to make it below a little bit. So we will use screen size dot width, and we will multiply this. Well, it should be minus, let's say, 0.15, and let's see how that works out. And here, and finally we add this child to our scene. So let's build and run and see it in action. Good stuff. I really like it here. Maybe a little bit to the left, and 20 should be okay. Now let's do the same for our share button. Okay, now here we go, and we will copy our rate button here. And of course, this whole copying and renaming is a little tedious, but it also saves a lot of time. So share button, share with a capital S, I believe. Let's double check that button share, that is correct. And now let's add it to the right of our left. Let's copy this out and add it to the right of our rate button. So inside here, share, and we will make this a positive number. Okay, and finally add child share button. Let's build and run, and we should be ready with our scene. Good stuff. Okay, one thing we might add, and I will do that, is to add a title, and the title will be a label. So let's go maybe before the buttons, and let's create a variable, and that will be our title, and it will be of SK label node. And let's create here a label, SK label node, and here we will create it with a font named, and I will just add this here, and of course we need to add our font. So let's do that now. Let's go to our folder here, and let's import our music donuts. Yep, we do have here our gluten font, and we will import our gluten TTF. Okay, let's open up our OTF. Maybe this will work. Okay, let me just wait for it. Well, we will drop it under our info plist file. Okay, let's add it to target, and make sure after you dragged and dropped it that you actually do have it in your ACT manager as usual. Now let's add this to our info plist file. Okay, here we go, info, and click on the plus button and type in fonts with a capital F, fonts provided by application, click near it, and for the item 0, let me just make this a little bigger, you just add this here. Okay, gluten FT regular OTF. And now we need to change in the BD button, we need to find out what the font name is, and it isn't bubblegum, of course, so we need to run our log available fonts on one of our buttons. So I will just run it on our play button. If you don't know, make sure you take a look at the previous videos. Okay, and I will go to the main menu. Maybe just comment all of this out for now so we may build and run. And I will just simply go ahead and type in here play button dot log available fonts. Okay, let's build and run again. And now in the console there will be logged all of our available fonts. Okay, let me just see here. Okay, and now let's filter it out and let's just type in, well, gluten, and here we have it, a gluten regular, and this should be it. And let me just clear this, and now let's take a look at the log. Okay, yep, everything seems to be okay. Now we need to add this to our BD button. Okay, gluten regular, and we can continue creating our label, the title label, inside our main menu. So let's go ahead and comment this back again and add the font name here. Okay, now let's just find some things that are needed. First of all, we return our label, so we get rid of that nasty warning sign. And let's just find here a label, and I believe, where were the labels? Well, inside our gameplay there were certainly. Here is our countdown label, so I will just copy out all of these and use what I need. Okay, I will just put this above our return statement. So the font size 36, well, maybe let's make it 42. Z position 2, that is okay. SK color, well, should be white, that is okay with me. And I will make it all center, the alignment mode, of course. And our label name should be, now we need to add our text as the app name. Well, we still need to figure out what app names are available, but we will come back here later on if this name isn't available. So I will just choose, well, we need to tap on the biggest donut, so I will just call this. Next up is to add this label. And I want to center it, so I will make this multiplied by 0.0, and the height should be screen size dot height, and let's see, 0.25, and we'll see how that looks. And finally we will add this to our scene with add child, and let's choose our iPhone 10 simulator, and let's see how that looks. Okay, straight off the bat, and this is too much of a size, so I will just go back here and I will just take this down to, let's say, 24, rebuild and run again, and let's see now. Okay, the biggest donut. So I will just quickly add this donut name to our info plist file and name the display name, give the display name a donut. Okay, and as you can see, here we have our bundle identifier, and it says ACT game. And it really doesn't matter what your bundle identifier or your project name is, it's also ACT game. What is important is that your display name should be as well, according to Apple, your unique name needs to be set in iTunes Connect, so that will be the actual name of your app, and the display name should be resembling to your setup name in iTunes Connect. Okay, Now that we have that set up, we need to create, well, the gameplay, but we will dive in that in the next video. And for now, we will create our game over scene. So again, select a new Swift file and I will call this game over. Let's create this, and I will just copy some code here from the main menu. Let me just copy. Well, let's start off with the background, and of course we need to create here, import SpriteKit, create our class. Okay, and it will be game over, and of superclass SK scene, of course. And let's add our did move to view here, and let's print out here 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we don't get any errors. And here we go. And let's add our background. That is great. Well, variable. And let's go back here. We will add a title. Okay, and the title will be a game over. Next up, we need to add, let me just give you some room here so you may see, we need to add the score and your best score, because the gameplay will be like, if you tap on the correct, the biggest donut, then you get the chance to tap again and again and again, so the board will be reshuffled or retaken. And if you do not tap on the correct donut, it will mean that the game is over and you get the chance to play again. So if you want, then we need to add here score, and let me give you here score, and I will just type in here double zeros as placeholders. Okay, and let's add here another one, and that will be called best score. And then we would want to add a go back button, so we go back to our main menu, or a replay button that would start off the gameplay again. So let's go to our main menu, and let's see now. Maybe I will choose from our advent calendars settings our rate share button, our back button from here. So let me just copy this here to our game over scene. So our image name should be here our button back, and no title this time, and we transition to our main menu. Good stuff. Okay, and finally we need to add our replay button. So I will just simply copy from our main menu, and I will copy out our rate button because it kind of resembles in functionality, well, not in functionality, but how we place it onto the screen. So this will be replay button, and the asset will be this button replay. And finally, now we need to add our two functions here. So let's delete this print statement, and let's go back to main menu, and maybe let's anchor it again to be at 0.5, sorry. And finally, let's set up the nuts here, and I will just copy all of this and replace what is not important for this scene. So the title is important, the play button is not important, and so we should delete all of this for now. And we add our nodes, of course, like so, and we delete our unnecessary adding of children. And finally, we want to add our positions for, let's see, for the score here. Score score dot position equals to, now we just copy from the title because I want it to be one above the other. So this should be, let's say, 15, or maybe rather 10. And now we position the best score. Finally, our back button. So the back button should be, again, we need to add our replay button too. So that is not the last. First of all, we add our back button. So the position should be at the top left of our screen. So CG point, and the X value should be screen size dot width, and let's multiply it by minus, let's see, 45, 0.45 of course, and the Y should be screen size dot height, and let's multiply this by 0.45 again. Let's see how that looks. And now let's position our replay button. So the replay button, now it's time to add our children here. Add child, and the first one will be score. Best score is the second one, and back button. And to get to this scene, so we may test it out, we need to go into, let's go to the view controller, and instead of the main menu, let's type in here game over for testing purposes. Now let's build and run again and see how the game overview scene looks like. Okay, I believe that the best score and the score is on top of each other, so let's fix that. Yes, the best score and the score is on top of each other, so I will just make this, let's see, and maybe the game over text should be larger, so let's scroll up again and replace it with 28. Okay, let's see, and let's see if I didn't really get, yeah, here it is, our back button, but it's too large. So first of all, we make it a little smaller, so back button, and the scale to screen percentage, let's say 50, and we need to make it this position to be a little bit lower. So let's see now. Well, it looks very, very good. Now, that is all for setting up the UI for our game, our ACT game. Now, in the next video, I will talk about and we will build the gameplay. So, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos of me on iOS and game development, go ahead and subscribe and share it with your friends. And I will see you in the next one.